Oh,
Good
perfect.
morning, everybody. Hello, Fran. How are you
Hello,
today?
Beata. Good morning. I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It was very sunny just a moment ago. I hope it comes again. And I hope it's going to be a lovely day. And even though we are somehow staying home and we can't really leave much, do you go at all for walks? Because you've got little daughter and she's probably
Not
um,
that much, to be honest with you. The weather hasn't been the greatest for the last couple of days. So, we kind of adapted to life indoors and board games and, entertainment, baking. I bake a lot, nowadays. You can tell a bit. But I think we'll all manage to hopefully get through it sooner rather than later.
Good. Fran, the reason I wanted to do this webinar is because you've had a long, long experience working with candidates across different fields, including fintech, including technology. And I just wanted to make sure to give this positive message, whatever happens, this is not the end, this is the new beginning, and we should be looking with a positive attitude. And I hope you agree with me.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Because also, I think just to give a bit of a perspective, you recently changed your path and you started your own business, which is also a new beginning for you. So maybe not
Yes.
the best time to do it because it's a rather turmoil for recruitment industry. If you could shed some light, how do you feel
Yes.
about it essentially?
Yes, yes. I mean, as you've rightly pointed, I've taken the decision to kind of, step back from the corporate world and, go at it independent so I can focus on, different projects, but also increase my exposure to opportunities such as this one, as well as other, voluntary involvement that I take on as well. So I guess that even in a good economy, sometimes things don't work out as you would expect, and especially in challenging situations, it can be very daunting, to be exposed to a new beginning, whether that is voluntary or involuntary as well. But whilst we cannot change what is happening around us, we have very little control over changing and influencing things at a macro level, where we have the power and the ability to change is both within ourselves but as well within our immediate circle. So if we switch the mindset from trying to, change the world and adapt everything to our own wishes that we need to be, but instead adapt ourselves and influence in small steps, then we have, I believe, a great opportunity to make, not sometimes, a wow, booming success, that doesn't happen overnight, but to help us cope and achieve things in a faster and more constructive way as well.
Excellent. So that actually gives us a perfect opportunity to go to this question. What do I need to do before starting a job search?
Okay. So depending on the reasons as to why you're starting the job search, now if it's a voluntary reason, you want to change jobs and so on, or whether it's an involuntary reason, whether you've been made redundant or perhaps fired from your role. These are kind of two distinct scenarios that require different types of actions. And because we don't want to go too long today, I will try and focus on the first scenario, which is perhaps pertinent to the current situation that a lot of people are experiencing right now, is how to, what do you need to do before you start your job search if you are in a position to have been made, redundant or perhaps let go from your employer. And whilst our natural response in that situation would be, to get as far away from that situation as possible, it's it will benefit us if we readapt and reinsert ourselves in the situation and control it. Now, what I mean by control is we need to understand and assess the situation so we can then take the appropriate steps that will help us make it a success. And what do I mean by that? Now, if you are faced with the news that you are being let go for various reasons, take a few days, collect yourself, okay, and then arrange a meeting with your either supervisor or HR department, depending on the situation, and prepare yourself to ask them some questions. Now, the first one that I would recommend is the reason why this has happened. Okay, this will help you then explain to your future employers the situation, because they will ask you what happened, in your previous role. So you need to gain that understanding from your current employer, but it will also help you come to terms a lot quicker with the situation, because by understanding something, it's easier to then accept it.
Oh, absolutely. I would agree. I would even add the fact that so many of us will think, wow, I'm so perfect. Why did they fire? Oh, because the boss was, didn't like me or something. And I just, as an employer, I didn't really believe some of the stuff I was told. So this is, I think, a perfect opportunity to take that feedback and work on it, because sometimes the feedback could be actually a very grounded feedback, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you beautifully put it and kind of led me to my next point I wanted to make. Are there any other opportunities within the business that you can transition to? So for example, let's say you've been made redundant. Most likely not all of the other departments are made redundant. So do you have any transferable skill set you can discuss with your employer and transition into a different type of role? Or if it's an issue relating to performance, like you said, Beata, if you listen to that constructive feedback and you understand, are you okay with the idea to perhaps take a step back and, a lower level role, so you can brush up on the skills and attitudes that you need to in order to continue your journey with this business? Not all ends need to be abrupt. Some of them will be, and most likely they will be due to factors outside of your control, even your employer's controls. But it's not always the case. So it's good to ascertain, are there any other adjacent area I can look into, or am I actually moving on for good?
Yeah, absolutely. So, which actually, I think you touched upon the fact that you need to have that feedback, even though sometimes it hurts to hear the truth. But how do you learn from that? What would be the next step if once you learned what was wrong with your job or what was wrong with your performance? How do you take that feedback?
So I'm going to, paraphrase something that I read online, and in other books a lot of times. Listen with the intent to understand and not to reply. So when you receive all of that feedback, give it a few days to kind of settle in within your mind and to help you make sense out of it, because this will actually help you prepare with regards to future conversations you will have, but also tailor and adjust your next search accordingly.
Yeah. Okay. So let's give it an example. So I'm working in technology field. I was just told that I'm very I don't know, I'm not very flexible. Why? What would you be your advice? How would you tackle this challenge of, maybe that's, I think, the most common mistake that many technologists are making is they are introverts. They don't really communicate what they want to achieve or what they want to bring to the table.
Yes. I mean, I've myself made this mistake many times. And whilst we all say, give me feedback, I want to improve. Actually, it's quite hard to take that on board and improve. So, to build up on the example that you gave, if you are in a position where your employer tells you, look, Beata, you are inflexible, for example, inflexible is a very broad term, so it will help you understand for him or her to give you examples of that inflexibility and situations, because like that in your mind you can visualize it, b understand it, and c accept it easier. Okay, because when someone gives you like a very blunt adjective or description, inflexible, your natural response is to put your guard up. What do you mean I'm inflexible? you know when
Exactly.
people tell me I'm argumentative, I'm like, no, I'm not. you know so, but if they tell me, Fran, when I've tried to speak with you, you cut me off, and you keep trying to put your point across, and I don't feel like I'm being heard, you know
Yeah.
then I
Yes.
understand. So give people examples to help them understand where you are coming from, and
Mm,
work
mm,
with them, and expect
mm,
their emotions to be negative. And I can't stress this enough. When giving and receiving feedback, do not
yeah.
do it from a place of sympathy. It's very
Mm,
easy to say to someone, oh, I feel sorry for you, and then you just move on. Okay?
yes.
Do it from a place of empathy. Maybe that person is inflexible or argumentative for a reason. Can you help
Yeah.
them identify that reason? Can you give
Yeah.
them some techniques that will help them cope?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Good. So that actually brings me to this great anecdote I've got to tell you because I used to have a guy working for me, and this is something that we touched upon in our conversation some time ago, Fran, in private conversation about how difficult it is for women to be leaders, because guys quite often would question what we decide. So our decision-making process and our management skills, and so I had actually a guy who was quite argumentative and confrontational, and he would always have to have a reason why this decision was made, and it's fine, but like he would not follow through, and that was quite upsetting. So I, at one stage, I just said, look, this is my money and this is my decision. So unless and until you make that commitment,
Investment and commitment
I'm not
yourself.
going to, yes, I'm not going to, you're very argumentative. And he said, I'm not argumentative. So
Sounds like me.
yes, so that was the close loop of female leaders have much more difficulties when it comes to actually achieving goals.
Yes,
It's questioned
yes,
so many times. So
yes.
now let's go into pitfalls. What pitfalls should we be aware of when we are job searching? What are the
Okay.
most common ones?
So the most common ones have actually a common denominator, which is rush. Okay.
Yeah.
Rush is your biggest enemy in the job search. Rushing to get off a ill-written CV or
Yeah.
difficult to read CV with spelling mistakes, with syntax mistakes, and so on. Rushing to apply to every single job out there, 2 or 3 times, it happens,
Yeah.
you forget where you've applied and you resend and resend and resend your application, pestering people, do you know of a job, can you introduce me to that person? All of these are actions driven by rush and panic. Okay,
Yes.
and all of these sorts of mistakes come from this. And again, I cannot stress this enough, the importance of taking a step back,
Yeah.
breathe it out, okay, and analyze. Okay, so instead of starting to send your CV left, right, and center, you could instead start with your digital footprint. And most people start with a CV, but in the days that
Yes.
we're living in,
Yeah.
actually, it makes more sense to start with a digital footprint. So, Google yourself and see how you come across social media and engagement, because your next employer or, the person you want to network in will most likely check you out online. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
fortunately, we live in a world where a few swear words and a few, photos of you drinking tequila are actually fine. And, they are fine as long as, they're not, I don't know,
Yeah.
too risque. But things, xenophobia online, or other, sort of, not necessarily, political correct, but, wrong
Mhm.
sort of expressions,
Mhm.
will haunt you.
Mhm.
Trolling Greta Thunberg online, doesn't make you look cool at all,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
bashing Donald Trump, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I think we can all live with that. I hope. If
Okay.
not, I have to go
Can
and
you
delete
give
all
some
my.
extreme examples? Maybe you've got some anecdotes how you checked somebody and it turned out a disaster in terms of potential candidate.
Look, luckily, I didn't come across anything like too, wow, off-putting. Um,
Yes.
but however, there are more subtle ways to, to profiles that can be off-putting, because I think when we all think of digital footprint, we are thinking of a very big, massive red sign no-go. Okay,
Yeah.
that rarely happens. It's not that common
Yes.
as we think. But
Mm-hmm.
instead, we have patterns of actions, okay? So,
Mm.
for example, I've had situations where I was checking people's profiles, and repeatedly, when they were commenting or engaging in online discussions, for example, they were
Yeah.
particularly negative about everything, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, complaining is fine. Okay, being negative every now and then is fine, but when it becomes a pattern, that
Yes.
tells me it will be very difficult for me to work with that person, because all
Yes.
that they will bring me is problems.
Yes.
Okay, and they will second guess me every step of the way, and that will make everyone's life difficult.
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely. Agree. Positivity always wins, no matter what situation we are in. It's going to be better, right? So,
realism as well. Like I said, it's okay, to complain and things.
yeah,
By complaining about situations, this is how we change them. But
yeah,
complaining, you can be done the right way or the wrong way.
yes, absolutely. So now, the question would be, okay, you passed this process. You sent CV, you got an invitation to the interview. What are the most common mistakes females make, or people make? Let's make it broader, because we have actually in audience some men as well. So, what are the most common pitfalls during the interview?
During the interview. Okay. I mean, I won't patronize our audience by, telling you to dress appropriately, and then, make sure you're there on time, do your research about the company and so on and so forth. I'm going to go again in, subtleties that are not always noticeable. I would say that the biggest mistake when interviewing is losing the opportunity to ask questions. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What do I
Yeah.
mean by that? As much as the interviewer is interviewing you and assessing your skills, your credentials, and your compatibility with the firm and the role, you should be
Yeah.
also interviewing them to, in reverse, assess their compatibility with
Yeah.
you, your goals, and your aspirations as well. And I've
Mm-hmm.
seen this numerous times where people, don't take advantage of that opportunity to ask pertinent questions. Don't ask
Yeah.
questions you will find the answers to online in their company
Yeah.
brochure, only like how many employees you've got. You can
Mm-hmm.
look that
Mm-hmm.
up.
Yeah.
Instead, ask questions that will help you assess. And good examples of questions like this would be, for example, how many customers have you lost last year? Okay,
Yeah.
everyone loses customers, no one is immune to that, but what you want to
Yeah.
find out from that question is that, do they acknowledge the fact that they've lost or were close to
Yeah.
losing customers, how it impacted them, what measures they've taken to mitigate that, because that will
Yeah.
tell you how they deal with problems that can be outside of their control. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Things like asking your interviewer, like if you could replicate one thing from your competitor, what would it be? Okay.
Mm, mm.
We all have competitors, but it shows a great deal of character for the business to sit in front of you and admit that there are some things that their competitors do better, because this shows that they are reasonable, they understand their market, and they accept that no one is the finished article.
Oh, absolutely. That's a very good line. Nobody's finished article. And I actually have to say that I think, given the fact that females we are talking on our channel, it's women on it. So I have to say that we are winning. I don't know whether you would agree with me in terms of emotional skills. We are much better in terms of dealing with questions. Of the likes. Just to give you an example, I had a couple. They came to my interview, and they both were going through the interview and so on. And I asked them, because I knew they are coming, it's a couple, and I asked each of them, what would you think if I employed your girlfriend or boyfriend? And the guy said, well, I would think she's better than me. Whereas the girl's answer was, I would be happy for him. So that's actually shows how different we are in terms of thinking, how caring we are in terms of thinking, which makes us a great leaders, I believe. What is your take on in terms of leadership? Because as we touched upon the fact that we are so many times questions, our decisions are questioned. Yep.
I mean, there was actually a study done by, I believe it was Harvard Business Review, that surveyed leaders across various industries in leadership qualities such as empathy, ability to adapt, ability to lead by example, taking risks, and so on. And women, across especially the empathy soft skill side, scored significantly higher than men. But at the same time, I think it needs to be, a balance between the two. By creating distinct separation between the two, we are losing the opportunity to gel them together. So I think that by working together and understanding what our limitations but also what our strong points are, we can achieve better outcomes. Now, is it more often rather than not that females have more empathetic and better soft skills leadership trait? By that study, it shows yes. Are sometimes men more practical in certain areas? That study again shows that yes. But by coming together and combining the two and allowing each side to flourish in their specific abilities, will bring out definitely better outcomes. I mean, naturally, I am a very logical, pragmatic person, so getting
Yeah.
emotions from me might be a bit tricky. Um,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I'm very empathetic, sometimes to a fault as well.
Yeah.
So they can come up as distinct, character traits, and kind of lead on both sides of the fence. But
Yeah.
by acknowledging, that and having support from people around you, you
Mm.
can you
Mm.
can definitely do better. And I would like to
Mhm.
say something. I think
Yes.
leaders, whether men or women, have it very hard, because
Mm.
somehow we created this culture and we look up to people, we put them on a pedestal, okay? And
Mm.
we expect them to be this, that, and the other, okay?
Yes.
We see influencers, thought leaders. I mean, whoever came up with that term, thought leaders,
Yep.
and so on. And then when we are in the real world in business, and we have
Yes.
our manager or leader, and they are human, and they're not this image that we've built up in our minds that they have to be like this, like that, and the other. We
Mm.
put them down. Yeah, we
Yes.
start to
Yeah.
dig for stuff
Mm.
because it's not based on our expectations, and
Yes.
doesn't help anyone. And in addition to this, we are all leaders in our own way. Leadership is not given by your title.
Yeah.
Leadership is given by the qualities you display. Okay?
Mm.
So are you a
Mhm.
secretary? in a company, most people think, oh yeah, she's not a leader. Well, she actually
Mm.
is in her own
Yes,
field, in her own
yes,
role,
yes. That's
you
very
know.
good.
And leaders
Yeah.
make mistakes. Get that through your head. We all make mistakes. It's important though that we learn from them, and wherever possible, try and again use our empathy rather than sympathy, and
Mm.
try and be better than what we were yesterday. But stop
Yeah.
putting people on a pedestal and expecting them to be the perfection, because
Yes.
no one is.
Exactly. So, which actually I think brings us to okay, we are through the process. We ask some questions. We were capable of asking some questions. Of course, some preparation is necessary. You need to know about the company before you go for the interview. And
Yeah.
then let's face it, we are facing a new reality. Everything's online. How do I prepare for online interview? Apart from changing your pajama and making yourself look reasonable.
Yes, yes. I think online interviews are absolutely great and they bring you some amazing advantages. And I'll explain
Yes.
why. So, again, I'm not going to patronize you, make sure the background is correct. Well, that is not great, but
Mhm.
anyway, make sure you look presentable, your connection is good, and things like that. Come on,
Mhm.
those are
Yeah.
givens. Um, but use this opportunity to help yourself. And what do I mean by that? Now, if you go to a face-to-face meeting, you're not going to have in your bag, briefcase, or whatever, printouts of the company, of their social media profile, of the biography, put them on the table and start looking through them.
Yes. Yes.
If you do that, stop. It
Yeah.
doesn't look very good. But when you do the interview remotely on your computer, you can open
Mhm.
all of those and make reference to them and engage in discussion so you don't forget. So it's actually very helpful. And utilize that. Have the biography or the social media profile of your interviewer, sorry, if they have such presence. Or maybe
Yes.
an article that they've written that you can reference, say, look, I really like that, or what did you mean by that? That will help you build meaningful reports
Yeah.
online.
Mm.
Okay.
That's very good feedback. I think also, I think we are facing new reality, and there is nothing wrong to say, "I'm sorry. I hope it's okay because I've got a little daughter and she might pop in into the interview, and I'm really sorry, but." I can't really help it, or a cat might run in front of the screen. I think it's understandable if you say that up front, and if it happens, just play by ear, right?
Yes, I mean, be human, like I said, like with leaders or with everything. Be honest, be human, and we
Yeah,
don't need to be stuck up and have this perfection show going on, and say the right. Like, I'll give you an example what I mean by
yeah,
that, which sort of builds on what you said. So, the interviewer asks you, what is your biggest fault? And people will say, I'm a perfectionist, or
uh-huh.
I care too much. And look,
Yes,
no one is going to tell you that I can't wake up in the morning. Don't talk to me before 10 a.m. Okay.
uh-huh.
And things that are real, that are human. But the more we actually try and get that out, it will become the new normal instead of these scripted answers.
Yes,
Um, so again, I think that helps. And yes, be honest. If you are, in a situation where your kids or something, pop up, on the screen behind you because you didn't have any other choice, just say it. It's fine.
yep, good. Now, since it's internet is can be a very dangerous area. And in terms of job applications and so on, what would be the mistakes you would make people aware of? Because just to give you an example, that's so easy to change your persona and pretend you're a headhunter from, I don't know, Africa or somewhere. How do you actually, what is the due diligence process you would advise somebody to take until they start moving and packing and going somewhere outer Mongolia, because some recruiter from outer Mongolia just said, I'll give you a position of a director.
Yes, yes. I mean, and this can be applicable even if you don't have to make such a drastic change in your life. But, check for the validity of the business, either a registered business, have they, are they up to date with their financial returns and accounts, accounts are public, or like, okay, in Malta, they're not, you need to pay a fee or go through an accounting and so on. But, you can access information to verify the validity of the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, if you have to move countries, there are independent websites that you can check, okay, and
Mm-hmm.
expat communities where you can ask your questions. Okay,
Yeah.
this part is up to you to check, because you are the one who knows what you can live with and what you can't live with. Okay,
Yeah.
so do your due diligence, check for the validity of the business from a corporate, financial, and legal perspective. Then
Yeah.
check for the stability of the country or jurisdiction that you're moving in. Analyze trends in the sector, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you have an amazing opportunity if you are able to speak with previous employees within the business
Yeah.
as well. So try and find out whether that is a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Good. Good, excellent. I think one of the common mistakes is people don't even go through checking that email address, because the email address, if it ends with gmail.com, I think it's a rather unfortunate decision to make. But also, it's if you don't do this interview online, if you can't see this person online, I would be wary of the fact it could be a scam. Because we have even more advertisements now, make money online and so on, and it's
Yes,
beautiful
yes,
opportunity
yes.
every day, $300 and so on, right?
The thing is, if something sounds too good to be true,
Yeah,
probably
it
isn't true. Yeah.
absolutely. So now, how do I actually access opportunities when we don't have this opportunity to meet face to face?
Mm. I think now, given an example based on the situation that we are in, internationally, most people are indoors. And we don't have the luxury to go to networking events and conferences and things like that. Is that a bad thing? Actually, no. You may think I've lost the plot, but I haven't, and I'll give you an example. Can you meet today face to face Elon Musk, Beata?
Hmm. It's
No.
very difficult. No,
Can you tweet
definitely
him?
not in Malta. Not in
Yes,
Malta, nor in Poland, and most
exactly.
European countries are not
Exactly.
really
Even if you
doing
see him
any.
at a conference, the chances for you to get close to him are nil. But can
Yep.
you tweet him?
Yes. Yep.
Can you follow him on social media and comment on his social media input and engage in a discussion with him?
Absolutely. Yep.
So we've answered our question. This is how we create opportunities for us online.
Mm.
We follow people and businesses we are interested in, genuine interest, because faked interest is very, very, very visible, as much as you
Mm.
think you can fake it perfectly. So don't pick 100 people, pick one, two, three, that you are
Yep.
genuinely interested in and you can give input. Engage with them in conversation. Take advantage of the ability that people are actually indoors and they are on social media and channels, probably
Mm.
more than ever.
Yep.
Okay. And
Absolutely.
engage in discussion, post questions, talk with people virtually. And like I said, you have a unique opportunity to engage with people that you would never have a chance to meet
Mm.
in person.
And
Okay.
I think starting from the simple, I'm looking for a job, right?
Yes,
Online and put
absolutely,
it on all
absolutely.
the channels.
You know, how you can network, like very simple steps, look for headhunters or recruiters in your area of specialism. Have calls with them and interview them, see what their client list is like, how they go about their process, and so on and so forth. And then pick one
Mm.
that you can work with. Okay.
Yep.
And they can then facilitate introductions to their network or to possible networks
Mm.
that you may be interested in. If you prefer to work on your own and not through a headhunter, for example, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
You can also pick yourself, think about what are the 20 businesses I'm really interested in.
Yes.
Interested in these businesses. Make a list, see who the decision makers are in those businesses, and send them
Mm-hmm.
an open application, but tailor that application. This is why you don't send your application left, right, and center. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
tailor it and make it specific, achievement based, and in line, okay, with what your target needs, then you have a
Mm-hmm.
much better chance. Will everyone reply to you and say, all right, Fran, why didn't you come in for an interview? Your email was lovely. No, of course not. But, does it give you a better chance for them to make a positive impression about you? Yes, for sure.
Good.
People don't want to receive speculative applications. It's wrong. People don't want to receive bad speculative applications.
Mm, good. So, just to remind our audience that we are open to questions. If you would like to ask questions, you can post them in comments on Facebook. Thank you very much for joining our conversation. And you can actually add some questions in the comments section, and I'm going to ask them if it's valid. So far, everybody's praising your great hints and tips. And we have a question that came before the show, and the question is, what questions should I ask the interviewer to make sure this is the right opportunity for me?
Okay. So I think we've covered a little bit earlier,
Yes.
and first of all, ensure that you understand their expectations. So ask the interviewer, Mark, what are your expectations performance-wise from me for the next 2 quarters? Because
Mm-hmm.
like this, you can assess whether their expectations are very high, they are, at the right, in your comfort zone, or they are below your comfort zone. Because like that,
Yeah.
are you undervaluing yourself? Will you be able to
Mm-hmm.
do this job, or this is a challenge? Now, if it is a challenge, okay, don't be naive and think, yeah, I can rise to it. Really understand. This is why this question is good. What are your expectations? Because if your
Mm-hmm.
skills level is here, so like for example, me, I write articles, but if I was go articles, I put my thoughts into perspective articles. Jesus, I'm not a journalist, but I try
Yeah.
and get, my perspective out there. But if I was, to be faced with a role or a project that will tell me, Fran, you would be copywriting our material, I'd be like, I am not a copywriter. Is it
Uh-huh.
right? Yes, but
Yes.
very distinct. So understand expectations.
Yes.
Okay. Another good question is for you to understand what is the biggest challenge that they have
Mm-hmm.
at the moment in this role. So let's say, for example, you're interviewing for an accountant role. Okay. So what is their backlog? Is it a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, do they have systems in place? Try and understand what is, what are the main areas that they will need your expertise in, because this will help you understand if A, you have that expertise, and B, are you comfortable with that?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We've got a very good question from Gordon, who's joined us, and he was asking whether he can attend because he wasn't sure
Yes.
whether it's for women only or
Hi,
not. So
hi,
the
Gordon.
question, hi, great to see you. So the question, when a married person starts work after 20 years, what can they do to come back to the workforce?
Since their CV is not valid after 20 years. Okay. Okay. Look, it first of all, it will benefit the person if you find yourself in that situation, even after a year or 2 years. For example, you've been on maternity leave or something like that. But this is a very extreme example of someone not having any work history whatsoever for the course of 2 decades. So to
Yeah.
answer that, I said that person needs to understand, what their expectations are. Why are they going into the workforce? And what is the type of role that they want to do? Okay. And it's very
Mm-hmm.
important for that person to be realistic. Okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to apply for I don't know, astronaut job. I don't know if they even
Mm-hmm.
advertise that, but you know what I mean. So be realistic with your expectations, and then find um, kind of transferable skills throughout your life that have prepared you for this type of role. Because no one sits for 20 years doing absolutely nothing. I was wanting to say a swear
Absolutely.
word, but nothing, I mean.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
no one sits for 20 years doing nothing, okay?
Yeah.
Or, a limited number of people do. So, you know, communication, I'm
Mm.
sure that especially if you've had children, you've been involved with parents' conferences or parent meetings, parent days, and God knows
Mm.
I've been and I haven't been out for
Mm.
20 years,
Yes.
or for example, organizational skills. Perhaps you manage the budget of your family,
Oh,
or
absolutely.
you, you
Which
know,
comes to the very, very interesting dynamic that majority of women are the CFOs of the household, but somehow we never make it in the corporate world. And also, there is another example. We are managing our logistics so well. We make sure that kids are delivered and they've got packed lunches and so on.
they're
These
fed,
simple
washed, and alive.
examples. Oh, absolutely. These simple examples, from your day-to-day life are going to help you in the interview
Yes,
process. And now
yes.
another question. Olga joined us, and Olga has got a question
Hi,
about
Olga.
how Hi, Olga. How much value to employers place on non-work activity? Example, whether it is signing in a choir, playing a sport competitively, or organizing community events, etc. And we, I think, touched upon that. Our daily life can give you a great example of
Yeah,
how we are capable of managing many tasks, and we are
absolutely.
multitasking.
Absolutely. I think that the value placed on it is directly proportional also with the level of the role and experience you are applying to. And I will explain what I mean by that. So, for example, if you are a graduate and you don't have any particular tangible work experience, non-work activities, I wouldn't necessarily call them non-work because they're still work, but, not directly related activities to the job you're applying for is actually very relevant. So singing in a choir or playing a sport competitively, can display certain skills. Now, so to use that example, if you're a graduate and you're organizing community events, don't just put organizing community events. Give an example of an event you organized, how many people came, how did you handle the logistics of it, what was the theme of the event, what it has achieved, and what was the outcome. Because this will tell your employer that you can organize, you understand what you're doing, and you understand the process of any cognitive action, which
Mm.
is why, how, what, and outcome. Okay. Now,
Excellent.
if you are
Yes.
a very seasoned professional, probably you'll want to focus more on your work achievements, but at the same time balance it with non-work activities. But perhaps it won't be as necessary for you to articulate those in a larger degree of detail than individuals without a prior professional history.
Exactly. So now we
I
are past that. Thank you, IDT. I hope
thank you.
I say yes. I hope I say the name correctly. So now the question is, we are past that process. We are past that into first stage of interview. You ask the right questions. You made sure that whether the headhunter is helping you, you ask them right questions as well, or the person who interviewed you follow through. And now the question is, okay, next stage is going to be negotiation. And I think we struggle a lot with the negotiation. So
Mhm.
could you give us some hints and tips how to negotiate effectively?
Yes. Again, be realistic in valuing yourself. Okay. Be confident in your abilities and understand what your abilities are and what your faults
Mhm,
are as well. Okay.
mhm,
Because the higher you go up the negotiation scale, the higher your skills must be. Okay.
yeah.
And I'll give you a very direct example. Okay. Um, if I was now to change my career, I would probably, well, I would become a physicist in an ideal world, but I'm not very bright at it. So I probably become a lawyer. Okay. Let's say I finished law school and so on, completed, because I've actually done 2 years of law school, but let's say I've completed it, and now I'm applying for lawyer roles. Okay. Now, I look at the benchmark in the market and I familiarize myself with the benchmark of that the role that I want to apply for. Then I take into consideration risk factors. Am I going for a less established company or a company that has problems with cash flow and so on and so forth? And again, I am understanding based on the information that I've asked in the interview, the risk factors involved for me in terms of a stability and development point of view. Okay.
Yes.
And I assess those with my skills. Okay. Everyone wants more money. That's fine. Great. But make sure that the results, reflect the increase in that. You are better off, maintaining a good level or increasing slightly based on certain parameters and conditions rather than trying to go too high up, but your skills do not catch up. Okay, because then your new employer will be expecting, if they pay you 30% over the market rate, for example, you need to give in return 30% over the basic skill set that will be required from this type of role. So being realistic with yourself, asking the right questions would help you. Do not listen to this sort, tips from the 50s, whoever speaks first knows it,
Yeah.
always go higher so you can go down. Don't listen to those. Be realistic, be human, engage, gain the information, and have an open discussion. Because you may find yourself that you are accepting a lower salary, but in a position that you love more. Okay.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah, get the information that you need. Be sensible and be realistic with it as well.
So this is very interesting. Just to give you an example, because as we said, we got it very difficult to negotiate. And just to give an example, how you can tackle the problem of negotiating, because there is research that shows that women are finding it difficult. So actually, a friend of mine said that she started negotiating by saying, we are entering the negotiation field now, and just to make sure that you understand what is going to be happening today, you're going to like me less. Because research proves people like women less when they are hard negotiators.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it goes, across the board, but particularly in the example that you've given. Because whether we want to admit it or not, we all have pre-biased perceptions of individuals. So, and I'll give you a very, very, very good example. Before I moved to Malta almost 7 years ago, I was interviewing in my home country, in Romania. And because of my experience, people assume that I'm a lot older than I actually am, particularly, 7 years ago. And when we got to the negotiation stage, somehow, because they, classified me as, probably, more mature than what I was. Okay. The conversation started in one way, the right way, understanding factors, implications, skills, and so on and so forth. When we got to the point where they've actually realized, because we were in more depth about when I finished university and so on, and my age became apparent, conversation shifted. Okay. And it became along the lines of, well, the director has XYZ experience, you're not, even though, he was significantly older than me, we had, quite close amount of experience as well. So and I felt, at that time that bias kicked in, and it can also be, gender based. We smile, we are polite, we are pleasant, and then when it comes to the negotiation side of things, people expect us to somehow roll over. And another example I had, again, a long time ago, I got an offer from someone, and I've asked them, I said, is this your final offer? Is this the best you can do? And they said,
Mhm.
yes. I said, okay, I'll give you an answer in a few days. I came back with the answer, and the answer was no. And they were like,
Uh-huh.
but can we rediscuss? I said, I've asked you a couple of days ago, is this the best we can do? I don't renegotiate.
Uh-huh.
Okay? So,
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Okay, so now the question would be whether there are some resources we could look upon. I mean, you've tackled upon the how to prepare for interviews. What would be the best source for that information?
So, you have a lot of resources at your disposal, and you need to find something that speaks to your personality as well. So, webinars like this, articles written by expert career experts. If you're struggling with writing your CV, there are professional. Providers of such service, or you can ask a headhunter to help you, at least to guide you through it as well. There are tools at your disposal like alerts about opportunities that will come directly to your inbox as well. So again, make use of it. And if you don't know where to start, ask someone that you think might know. And if they don't know, they will keep pointing you in the right direction, hopefully.
So I just wanted to make sure that our listeners and our watchers or lookers can reach out to you, and we discussed it before. We can help you to prepare for job loss or overall prepare you
Yes.
for the interview process. And just to wrap it up, so just a brief uh, description. How do I start? This is the new beginning. This is not the end. What would be your key pointers to make before you start looking for a
Key
job?
pointers. So, key pointers: relax, take a step back, understand, okay, assess, and just do it.
Yep. Very good, Fran. Thank you very much. I think we've covered most of the recruitment process, what is important, how do I prepare. So just to let our viewers know that we are going to also post some information on the Facebook page. So I
Yes,
hope you can share some insightful articles with us. And thank
definitely.
you very much for joining us this morning. I know it's been a very difficult week. Spending another week in front of the computer was
Yes,
not ideal, but that's the new reality. And as the famous quotation is about the change, that's the thing that is always inevitable. So we need to
inevitable.
prepare for change.
Yes, and thank you very much for having me and giving this opportunity. I hope our audience, picked up at least one thing that is useful. And if you do feel that you need more support or, particular confidential guidance, do reach out to us. You can find us online and so on and so forth. And I hope everything is
And just
great.
last question from Gordon.
Ah, let's see. So, when you start working in your role and start being given different jobs which were not specified at the start, what should you do since the first 6 months is very important? Well, it depends on what sort of tasks you are being given. Being given the exposure to different areas can be very beneficial. But at the same time, if you are not confident in your abilities to have that exposure or to take on those tasks that came unexpectedly, you need to be able to articulate those and help together with your employer and so on Find a way for you to be able to perform those tasks. Being flexible is incredibly important because things in business change every single day, and you will find yourself in situations where you are dealing with things that were not expected, not anticipated. Your ability to adapt will be paramount. But after your
Mhm,
ability to adapt, your ability to assess is going to be absolutely crucial. Okay?
mhm, mhm. Well, I think maybe Gordon can join us later in the week because he actually did a very good talk on negotiation, on networking, and I think he's got some great experience in networking face to face. I hope he can help us do it online as well, and we are looking forward to discussion with other viewers if they would like to join me on the show. They are more than welcome. Thank you, Fran, for this morning, and thank you for very insightful, um, experience
Exactly.
chatting with us. So thank you once again, and I just would like to remind you, you can reach out to us, and we can help you through the process, and we will be posting some more resources shortly. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Goodbye.
Thank you,
Have a
everyone.
lovely
Have a great
weekend.
weekend. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.